What's up, guys? We are back with another Super 7 Ultimates review. We're jumping back over to the worst, and I don't think I've taken a look at one of these in a while, probably since Wave 1, and that's been 2 years, maybe, I think. 2 years since Wave 1 came out, but we're taking a look at one of the most recent figures today. This is CORTEX Commander. It's a dude with just a brain sticking out of his neck. Why not, right? Now, in typical fashion, it's got the trapezoidal-shaped box. We've got him in there in the big window. It's got that sort of coffin shattering look going on, so there's a coffin imprint on the front, which I really like. It's kind of cool and wacky for this kind of line. And then the back gives you an artwork shot of CORTEX Commander with a little bit of a bio for our ruthless mastermind of chaos, because he needs a title, right? So, yeah, let's do it. Let's pull him out and take a look. And here we go, out of the package, our Ultimates, the worst CORTEX Commander. This guy is surprisingly really good in a way that I guess that's what's surprising is, didn't expect. Because he is probably the most basic in many ways compared to a lot of the other wacky designs in this line. This guy is, you know, if you can disregard the brain sticking out of his neck there, he's just a guy in like a military outfit, right? He is a fairly basic looking action figure. But there's a lot of stuff here that just was done really well, even beyond the fact that it's kind of a goofy design, which is the whole thing for the worst. So let's see what he can do, see how he moves around. Obviously, at the start, he's a little bit different. So you can take the dome off. You can move the brain around. It just swivels in there. It doesn't do much else. But if you wanted to have him, you know, looking, I guess, I don't know what he's supposed to do. If you want him positioned to one side, you can do that. You've got arms that go out at the shoulders. They, of course, swivel. You've got a bicep swivel, which works pretty well. You've got a single-jointed swiveling elbow, so you've got 2 points there. And then you've got hinges and rotation at the wrist, normal stuff there. What I really like about this guy, though, is kind of the one problem I've had with some of the other worst figures. And again, I haven't reviewed all of these, but I definitely had some issues with the first wave. The torso articulation works really well. This is better than, I'd say, 95% of Ultimates. So that's pretty great. He also has, this is going to pop off as I mess around with him. He also does have a ball jointed waist, so that helps for a little bit more of the rock back and forth, that kind of stuff. Legs go out a decent bit. There's not cuts in the side to help him extend his legs further, so you can do that if you want. But, you know, for keeping it seamless looking, I think it works all right. They kick forward pretty much all the way. They kick backwards. You've still got a thigh twist up there. You've got single jointed knees there with some swivel on them. And then you've got pretty decent hinges at the ankles down here. They're pretty tight, but not in like a worrisome way. They're just tight, and they're going to hold them up really well. And then you've also got pretty solid rocker. There's nothing in the way of these ankles and feet down there. So he is, for a relatively basic kind of action figure, because again, he's mostly just a guy outside of the fact that he's got a brain in that container up there. He moves really well, and again, is probably more articulated or more seamlessly articulated than a large number of Ultimates thus far. Now, in that same vein, while he may be a, you know, quote-unquote kind of basic-looking action figure compared to some of the other stuff in the worst, I think it's for this figure's benefit, because not only has it helped him to be able to move better by just simple fact of maybe not having such an outlandish design, it's easier to have cut in articulation here, but also it just sets out to do the thing that it does. This guy is obviously meant to be some very sinister, Nazi-esque style military officer that just so happens to have a brain sticking out of his head or out of his shoulders rather than a head sitting up there. And you're getting exactly that. So I'm pretty happy with the way this guy turned out. He also does have a surprising amount of paint on him for being so, you know, very plain overall. You know, he looks like at first glance that he just has a military officer's uniform on, but there's a decent amount of shading on here. There's some shading on the torso and on the jacket that comes down here and on the legs. And then specifically on the back, like there's a lot of shading on his back, which I was surprised to see because, you know, it's shading on the back. It's not a priority by any means. He, of course, has some paint on the medals, on the adornments, on the arm, and on the shoulders, and they're painted pretty cleanly. Nothing too super detailed, but they are painted cleanly enough and add a bit of color and some metallic shine there. But this guy just is exactly what you think he is. He's a very science fiction pulp kind of character, and it works here. I really like his little handgun thing here that's on his glove. That's pretty neat. He does have a holster for his pistol that we'll talk about. This is really loose, so watch out for that. Like if you turn him upside down, it's going to immediately fall out. And then of course he does have, maybe the crowning thing of this figure is of course the fact that he doesn't have a head, but he has a brain. And like I mentioned, you can take the dome off. The brain does come out, and we'll talk about that when we get to accessories. But there's a little, like metal container in there that kind of cinches things off and locks him in place. And you can take that out, and you've got a brain stem, and then you've got a tiny little brain up there with all those folds, a decent amount of wash or dry brushing just to bring out that sculpt, since there's so much little detail in there. But I think this guy's pretty solid. He maybe isn't the flashiest figure compared to some of the other worst figures that we've gotten so far, but I think in general he absolutely does accomplish what the idea of this figure sets out to do. Sinister, evil-looking military officer with a brain instead of a head. Now, as far as accessories goes, Cortex Commander has a pretty solid spread. It's not like an overwhelming amount of stuff, but I think I'm happy with what he's got here. A lot of it's pretty funny too. So to start with, he doesn't come with an extra head because he doesn't have a head. I suppose they could have given us like a damaged brain or something like that, but they give us a way to utilize the brain in another way. So you do get this little tank right here that has a shattered dome on it. So there's a big hole in it. The brain can actually go in here, which I think is pretty cool. And the domes are swappable. So if you want a damaged dome on his body, you can just pop it off and put it on in its place. So you've got that option if you want to have him like trying to make a getaway or something, because he is just the brain, right? He's just a brain. And then you've also got this little guy. And what I don't know is if this is also his brain. Is this supposed to be him in a bird or something? So here he is like as a pigeon or some kind of thing, or it's his pet. So you've got this little guy here with like a little satchel on it. So like I said, it's all kind of goofy stuff, which I really like when it comes to these figures. So this is kind of fun. And then he's got the gun. I've already mentioned this. So you've got the revolver. Again, this doesn't sit very well in the holster. Like it sits in there, but it's not snug. But this looks really good. Nice metallic silver, decent sculpt on it. Nothing really to write home about. It's a gun. And then he's got some extra hands and some other little knick-knack kind of things as well. So you've got this here, which is like a desk globe, but it's actually like a nuke sort of thing. So it's got a button on there, a big red button, of course, whether he's going to launch a nuke. And of course, it's set to yes already. So that's kind of funny. I do really like this. It's actually a pretty solid looking globe too. Like it's a decent globe if you happen to need one for something else. And then he's also got this scepter with a brain on the end of it. It's gold because why not? Right? Another goofy thing. And what's crazy is that my favorite accessory with this entire figure is a hand, which I don't think ever really happens. So he's got fists on him in the box. And then you've got a few extras to kind of round him out. So you've got two gripping hands. What I don't like about the hands is that this right hand rather, doesn't have the gun on it. So that's kind of like a one hand only thing. I guess it's not a big deal, but you've got it. And then you've also got a trigger finger hand for his right. But you also get this. So this is a left hand with a cigar, which, at face value maybe isn't the funniest thing, but he has no mouth. So this is just him having a cigar for the sake of having a cigar, which I absolutely love. It's dumb and it's ridiculous and it doesn't work at all, but it also absolutely works. So I think this is really funny and just kind of a goofy little thing to include with a figure that has no face, head, mouth, or any way to actually use it. So yeah, overall, this is a really fun figure, and that's really where I start and stop with this guy. It's a fun one. I think it's more fun than most of the worst up until now. I really like the designs across this line in general, but this figure was really fun to just pop out and start playing with right away. He's got really funny, goofy accessories. I like the globe. I like the little tank. I love the pigeon, that kind of stuff. So there's all sorts of little goofy, pulpy kind of accessories here. And of course, the idea of this figure is just also executed really well. I think this is a great addition to the line. Not only does he move well, but he looks good, he's fun to mess around with, and there's really no muss, no fuss with this one. You're getting exactly what you think you're going to get. You're getting a military officer, evil guy, with a brain instead of a head. So that's going to do it for this look at the Super 7 Ultimates, the worst Cortex Commander. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.